This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall. CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, let's jump into this poll. We had hoped to have Nick Nanos on. We're not going to get him today, but I did want to talk about this poll that shows, forget about Trudeau and Poilievre. It seems a lot of Canadians don't like either one of them, never mind who you're going to vote for.
That's the scary thing about this, right? It's like, it's not so much who do I like, it's who do I detest less.
Yeah.
And I don't want to freak anybody out, but I am beginning to detect the rather pungent aroma that was wafting across the U.S. back in 2016, where you had Hillary Clinton facing off against Donald Trump. And it was a matter, well, do I like yeah, but I don't really like her. It says a lot, I think, about the state of certainly federal and perhaps provincial politics as well in this country, that, you know, it's shaping up as a choice between Mr. Bad and Mr. Worse. And that is something I think every Canadian should look at that as a warning sign. I don't care what side of the political fence you're on, but when you start sort of like shrugging and saying, and Lord knows, you know, I've been on the other end of that phone as well at the station, and I've heard, they're all crooked, they're not worth anything at all. Well, we got a problem. If that attitude really starts to spread, if people don't give a damn, and if turnouts that we've discussed in the past continue to drop, believe me, you think you've got it bad now, wait till you see what the final result may be if nobody gives a damn. If there's one person who you may not have liked, who you'd like even less than the two people you detest at the moment, they wind up getting the most support. Believe me, there's no way around it. And that's how the states wound up with Donald Trump, and they're still paying the price for that today. But honestly, in this country, we're seeing more and more, and we've discussed this before, the Americanization of politics. Yeah. But it's not about what someone can do, it's what they did wrong. And to a certain extent, I'll accept blame for that. A lot of newsrooms now, that's the approach that we've taken for decades. It's like, don't tell me what good they're doing, let's just find out what bad they're doing. And that's the part that sticks. That's the part that people remember, whether it's major stuff or minor stuff. But it erodes whatever faith, whatever confidence we should have in our system. Because believe me, as much as we like to complain, this system is infinitely better than many others around the world. And yet somehow it seems the wheels are starting to wobble, if not fall off.
Jim, I'm sorry, but I don't like that you're saying, you know, like, I'll take that on a bit for, you know, some responsibility for that. I mean, I think the good stuff is the good stuff, and you don't necessarily need to point out, because that's the good stuff and it's working. It's the stuff that's not working that you need to draw attention to and say, hey, do better. So I don't like that.
The problem is we're creating a tennis ball that politicians like to you know, slam over the net at each other. And in the end, and one of the symptoms of that is when you see a lot of streeters out there. What do you think about this policy? You know, do you want to pay more taxes? I mean, it gets to the point where people, and we've certainly seen this with conservative politicians in the past decade, Andrew Scheer, and to a certain extent Aaron O'Toole, who were basically suggesting Canada was on fire, that it was falling apart, that it was, you know, as I mentioned on the show once, it was King's Landing after the Dragons hit. You know, it was just this idea that the country was on the precipice, and nothing could be further from the truth. But because they're saying this, we repeat it, we amplify the message without too much fact checking, and we create this narrative on behalf of certain politicians that things are just going to hell in a handbasket. There are things that are wrong in this country, fundamental things that need to be addressed. But to suggest that for some reason, you know, we have to take our country back and, you know, we've got to get rid of the people who are keeping us from what's rightfully ours, that's a very dangerous road to go down.
You know, Jim, I would say to this idea of the media being responsible, I think part of the issue here, and you're outlining what I think is true, but I think the other part of this is what you just said about this fact-checking. You could get away with saying literally anything,
Absolutely.
Then it blows up online, and then the mainstream media kind of lets it go, and none of that stuff sticks to the people who said it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm part of the problem, and believe me, I'm not making excuses here, but I think it's an open secret that newsrooms across the country have a lot less boots on the ground now.
Yes.
Sure.
There are not so many people who, you know, there were times you could do deep dives on stuff, especially during election campaigns. I'm sorry to say those days are gone. We can try as hard as we want, but it's not going to be quite the same product, say, that we had 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. But what concerns me is that, we know that for the 100% of what we produce, the information on politics that we produce, maybe 5% of it is going to trickle through and actually stick in our audience's mind. Normally, though, it seems that it's the negative stuff that sticks in, that people think, well, inflation. Why isn't the government doing something about inflation? Well, it's around the world. But no. It's worse here. Look how much we're paying at the local store.
Yeah.
No context, but all of a sudden, it's wrong. Something's wrong here. And I'm not saying inflation isn't a problem, but but the idea that somehow someone's going to turn around with their magic wand and say, oh, no, I can solve it.
Sure.
No, you can't. The Bank of Canada is trying, and they're having a hard time.
Completely agree. I want to just say one other thing with respect to this Mr. Bad versus Mr. Worse. Ordinarily, a situation like that might open, some room up for someone right up the middle. There is no someone right up the middle, is there? Because Jagmeet Singh is not going to be that guy if you hate both of those guys.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, if you're talking about a theoretical person who will come up the middle, who in their right mind at any level of politics would take that step now? Seeing what we've seen, what politicians, even neophyte or veteran politicians, go through in election campaigns. That's why I'm really getting worried about this. It's like the best and the brightest are smart enough to say, I'm not going to touch that.
Stay on the sidelines,
with a barge pole.
Well, I'll tell you, Jean Charest was that guy, and look at how that ended for him. They were like, no thanks, nobody wants that. And he was the right center. Like, he could have bridged those gaps.
I think, they say Canada's divided. No, I don't think Canada's divided. It's politics, absolutely, and the chasm's getting deeper.
All right, let me move on and talk about this, what you call the PQ's vaudeville, not helping their campaign for official party status. Is this a PSPP thing specifically, Jim? What are you talking about?
Absolutely. I got to tell you, since I wrote that, I've come to the conclusion that the P in PQ now stands for privileged. Okay, we only got 14% of the vote in 3 seats, but you know what? We're special. We want official party status. The leader of the PQ, Monsieur Plamondon, stands up today, says, "I refuse to swear allegiance to a foreign head of state, to the King of England." And this is a guy, Monsieur Plamondon, has a degree from Oxford University, which actually educated more than a few of the colonizers that he was complaining about at today's press conference, okay? But the other thing is, I am flabbergasted that someone with Mr. Plamondon's education doesn't know that whether we like it or not, and I'm not 100% saying it out loud myself, Charles III is the King of Canada. That's why we call ourselves a constitutional monarchy. That's why we have R's on all those legal documents when it's a criminal proceeding. That's why we have our system of government and the Governor General. And this guy is turning around suddenly, look, it's a foreign head of state. No, he's the Canadian head of state. And I understand you guys in the PQ haven't had too much luck disengaging yourselves from Canada over the past 50 years, but until you do, that's the system we have. Maybe Canada as a whole will decide to cut its ties with the monarchy. And who knows? Maybe we'll be better off for it. But please, spare me this dog and pony show. And by the way, Aaron, you and I were talking about this yesterday because he telegraphed it. And I said, well, he'll turn around. This will be his pitch. I will not sit in the national... No, he did nothing of the kind.
Yeah.
Oh, the balls with... I'm asking the National Assembly. I'll wait on their answer. Will you not serve? He wouldn't answer. He wouldn't answer what he would do if they turn around and tell him, no, you've got to take the oath.
It's like you said yesterday, kind of, this idea of showboating, of making this all about himself more than anything else. And I think people at some point will just get tired of that, Jim. I don't know how long that's going to take to happen because there's business to do in the National Assembly, and this is just such stupid, trite stuff. So we shall see.
Manufactured outrage.
Yeah.
I think they're tired already.
Yeah, you're right. I think they are.
Yeah, and I honestly think that down the road, the PQ, which can't really afford to make mistakes these days, will pay a price for this.
James Mennie at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Adamant.